Hi, welcome or welcome back. Today I'm going to do something that's slightly different, and instead of kind of like a teaching system, I am going to open up the cauldron and show you exactly what's happening inside my journaling practice right now. Because journaling systems evolve, especially when you're living with things like ADHD, autism, chronic illness, or even when your energy levels fluctuate a lot from day to day for whatever reason, a system that works perfectly for 3 months can just suddenly stop fitting your life. And when that happens, the goal isn't to force yourself harder into the system, it's more to align the system with you and just realign yourself. So today we are going to do a journaling recap. We're going to look at what's working really well, what's not working anymore, what the data in my journals actually tell me, and how I'm going to adjust things so that my system works with my brain instead of against it. So let's get stuck in. First of all, most people treat planners like disposable tools, and if it stops working, they assume that they are the problem. But journals are data collection devices, and every page that you fill is kind of like a small snapshot of your brain and how it works. Patterns show up over time, so things like energy cycles, focus windows, overwhelm triggers, and what is actually getting finished. Without a reflection, that information just sits there quietly, and if you're not reviewing it, you're not really looking at the evidence. As soon as you start reviewing what you've got, you turn your data into evidence, and evidence is powerful. It means that you can adjust your system logically instead of emotionally. You have less shame and more curiosity, like a scientist studying a fascinating and occasionally chaotic creature. That is the human brain. Let's start with the good news. Okay, I started to use this as a health journal. Let's go to January. And yes, health journaling does work. I am using the data that I collect. I'm not collecting it obsessively. There's just enough to see patterns, things like my symptoms, patterns in my respiratory rate and my sleep. I've been keeping a food diary, any extra medication, and my weekly measurements. And I did also track headaches, migraines, and triggers on here. Although elements of this are working, something does need to change here, because I did fall off during February. You can see none of February is filled out, which is less than ideal when it comes to having to track consistently and having to track so much. So the flaw here is drawing out the layouts every week, having to draw the same layout consistently every week. Sometimes it takes maybe 25 minutes to draw everything out, so I'll have to then sort my stickers out, cut my stickers out, place them, size them, all of that stuff. And it can take a little while, and when I'm having like a low energy day, it's not ideal, so it becomes a burden rather than a functional feature. Although this looks great, it isn't being functional for me at the moment, so I do need to change things up a little bit. In this journal, I have been using it as a master to-do list kind of thing. So I have all my weekly tasks down one side, and then I separate my weekly tasks out into my priorities for the day. Some weeks look a bit barren, some weeks are more full than others. I did test out a couple of layouts in here for my health, just to see if I could make that kind of thing work, and I'm not sure that this is enough to be doing that in. I think one of my main issues is actually going between two journals, so having to open one journal, fill this journal out, whatever it is, and then switch journals into the next journal and fill that out, and then have them both open and correlate the information and have a look what's going on in my life, so I've got a bigger overview. I think what I've been needing and what's been holding me back is the fact that I am not just in one journal. So I'm going to test out being in one journal. I'm going to lay out the system similar to this one. So I'll have all of my business tasks down one side because they're usually the majority of my tasks, my home tasks, and then my personal tasks. This was just an example taken from this common planner and put into here. And this is what my week so far looks like. I'm currently unwell with a temperature, which I have marked at the bottom here. I unfortunately came down with the flu, so if my voice sounds a little bit off, you know why. I did have a gap down the side here because I've not been very well. I've hit my usual rewatch of Downton Abbey, so I've kind of just had that on in the background. I've used this side for personal business, but going forward I will be doing personal and household separately, just so I can see how much I'm actually doing for myself as opposed to the household and the business. I think it'll be a great reflection tool. I'm taking some of the tasks from this side and I'm using them as priorities for my day. So some of my days are quite full and some of them aren't, and these circles down here represent my energy. So I do use the spoon theory, and I will go into what spoon theory is and how it's useful for tracking energy in another video, but I just wanted to mention that here I am still tracking my energy. Now, I did think that there might be room in here as well to have my health. I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to lay it out right now. And then this is another layout that I did. So I've got my daily tracking, my business tasks, my household, my personal, and other things, you know, things like having to order things and stuff like that. And then on this side I've had like important dates, half term, appointments, and then my priorities for the week. I do tick them off. I don't copy necessarily straight from this side onto this side and just sort the list out. If I've got to, for example, check if the cauldronandquills.com domain is available, I will just figure out the website and the domain. I won't transfer it equally, but I'll know that it's part of this task and, you know, go in and check it off. The good thing about this weekly overview really works well for me is the fact that you can see the whole week across 2 pages. You can see exactly how much you've been productive. If you add any extra tasks into your week, for example, you might have an appointment that comes up, or you just think one day you might visit a friend, you know, you've got room to write it in there. I just don't know if I can incorporate my health in here right now as well as everything else. Not quite figured it out. I do know what I need, and I do need a kind of master weekly task list. And I suppose instead of using this for media, I could ignore the lines coming off it and use this section for health trackers, or I can create a margin down the side and put some small trackers in the side for my health, and then use the rest of the page for my business tasks and then my household tasks and my personal tasks. So it might take a couple of weeks of layouts to kind of figure it out. I do need this for my monthly overview, because I do have quite a lot going on over a month in different sections of my life. I mean, I've forward planned when half term is and when my partner's away, and I will need that information in the future. So, you know, I know I can go ahead and do that. So using this overview is not going to work for health anymore, as opposed to when I was using it in January to track headaches. So we'll have to find a different way of doing that. Now, I do have the 2026 small calendar overviews, and I printed these from Papershare. These are actually last year's designs, but I went ahead and redated them so that I could use them this year. And there's daily framework, habit cultivation, but there's not enough in this planner for me to be able to track everything that I want to track. This, I think, is supposed to be used for tracking, and I have not utilised it. And then we have this. Now, I was considering using this layout as more of a health kind of overview. You know, all of my symptoms listed down the bottom here, and then a scale that I use. I think I overthink everything. So, you know, when I'm coming in and I'm filling out this, I'm overthinking it, like absolutely overthinking it. And then I'm like, okay, well, what did I say 1 means? What did I say 3 means? You know, 3 is like middle ground, so it's not too bad. But how do you define the difference between a 4 and a 5 when, you know, you don't feel good? I think what I am going to do instead of the numbers in here is use symbols. So in here I will have all of my symptoms, which will fit in here, and I will use a downward like V shape for low, so the arrow's pointing down, and then I'll have an upside down V where the arrow's pointing up for high, and then I'll do an empty circle, so just the outline of a circle to indicate that it's kind of a 3, that middle ground, because I do score my symptoms out of 5 now. I used to score them out of 10 and that was even worse, so I've kind of learnt along the way there that it needs to be changed up. I think that's how I'm going to get around that, and it will then save some space on these daily pages. I won't need to include all of those symptom elements on these pages. Now, where are we? Where's today here? I do know that I am not going to have as many personal and household tasks as I am business tasks. Now, this might not be a true reflection of a typical week because I'm not very well, so you know, maybe there's a little bit less on here than what would normally be on here. But if I just flick back here, you can see that the list, when I have, you know, consistently filled it out, it is roughly the same size. So I'm thinking I could probably get away with making this smaller. Yeah, this is how I am going to track my symptoms here. So the arrows and the circles, yeah. I think I can probably fit something in along the bottom, so I know that I will have my symptoms tracked. How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then a header. So that would, you know, the smallest space I could use would fit there, which means it would fit in there. And then I'll have this space for possibly my sleep, and I can use this space for, if I split this in half again, I can still track my media and I can track my food. I think that's how I'm going to do it for next week. I'm going to go for a smaller section, a health tracking section, and I'm going to split this side into 3 instead of into 2 so I can track my food. Then I'll come into this and everything will all be in one place. So this is going to serve as my external mind. Now, I am just going to be getting my thoughts out onto paper, but not in a long form journaling format. I have realised that daily long form journaling isn't for me. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure to fill up a page, and I don't always have the energy to fill up a page, and if I've got to go back and fill it out, it's just not going to get done. Like, I need the smallest space to write down any actual personal thoughts that I can use the overview, the review, sorry. I can use the month review. There is a blank page here. There's a section for what gave you energy, what drained your energy, and the lesson or thought or growth movement for the month. So I will utilise that. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to use those pages when I first started this journal, but now I've switched it up, I know the whole thing's going to get used. I don't want my brain to hold everything internally, because it will just literally loop and loop and loop, and then I'll go into this crazy like decision fatigue. My executive function will just, turn to trash even more than what it normally is. So I need to be able to get everything out for the week here. I need it there, I need it a visual, and I need it simple. I mean, if I do have small spaces, I am going to come in here and stick stickers in. I am not leaving my stickers behind, but I need it to be functional first. So I'm not going to come in, stick a load of stickers in it, and then find out I've not got the space, or it's not going to work as functionally for me anymore. It's just, that way is just not working for me. So, no more. I know that once I've written things down, my brain can rest a little bit. So even if my system does change, like now, that my purpose is staying the same. I'm not changing my purpose completely. I know what I need. I just need the system adjusting slightly. Therefore, I will create more clarity. So if your planner stopped working for you lately, then this is a reminder that the system isn't sacred. You can change it, simplify it, rebuild it. A journal is not a rule book, it's a tool, and tools should adapt to the person who is using them. Your brain is allowed to evolve, your system should evolve with it. So if your current planner feels heavy and overwhelming, consider doing your own journal recap. Look at the evidence and ask, what is helping me? What is draining me? How can I realign this system so that it supports my life and the way that I'm actually living? Because productivity doesn't come from forcing yourself harder. It comes from designing a system that honours your energy. I'm sorry that this isn't a normal video. I did need to do a recap, and I did want to show people how I did it. I hope that next week I am feeling much better and I can get a longer video out for you. I do, like I say, want to go into more about spoon theory and how this comes into journal planning as well. So if you don't want to miss out on any of the content, then please consider subscribing. And if you've enjoyed this video, give it a like, a thumbs up, and ding dong that bell so you don't miss anything. Thank you for being here, and have a great weekend. Bye.